Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you my fall reading recommendations. So I feel like fall is where I gravitate to really kind of atmospheric fantasy reads in particular. I have one that's a dark academia that I really think fits that fall back to school vibe, but for the most part these are fantasy reads that I feel like really capture that kind of dark, misty, wet, foggy autumn that I feel like really builds such a great atmospheric read. And so these are kind of fantasy books that I think really kind of capture that feeling where the air is crisp, it's cold, you can see your breath, it's foggy, there are wet leaves on the ground, like those type of things are what I'm looking for. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So first up, I have The Once and Future Witches by Alix and Harrow. This is a book that I read a couple of Octobers ago, and I think it really does a good job at kind of having that kind of witchy fall vibe to it. So it follows three sisters in the late 1800s during the suffragettes movement, and there are kind of these sisters are kind of very much on different paths. So it kind of focuses on the mother maiden crow setting, or kind of the saying that kind of is associated with women in witchcraft. So in addition to the suffragettes movement that is rising, there's also kind of this secretism around witches in particular. So it says, I think it just can just do a better job of kind of describing this. So it says, in 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, Juniper, Agnes, and Beatrice, joined the suffragettes of New Salem, they began to pursue the forgotten word in ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces who will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magic, draw new alliances, and heal the bonds between them if they want to survive. This one was just such a really interesting book. I really loved not only how it ties in kind of witches and witches finding their voice in a time where women were finding their votes or finding their voice to be able to vote, but I also really love the dynamic between the sisters, and also the themes of feminism and patriarchy are very much really tied into this. So I love that historical element within that fantastical setting. So this is a book that I really enjoy, and I think it's like the perfect time to read this kind of in that fall season. Like I said, definitely really enjoy this one. Next up, this is the dark academia book that I feel like really captures that fall feeling, and it is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. This one is a really great read. So the book starts out where our main character has been in prison for the past 10 years, and he is getting ready to tell his story to what actually happened to the police, because they don't believe that he is actually the one who is responsible for the events that transpired at this school. So this book is just the retelling of the events that led to a death of one of their friends and eventually the fallout. So this follows a group of students that go to this kind of very artsy school where they are studying like Shakespearean theater. They speak to each other in like Shakespeare quotes and all those things. So but after kind of an event that happens, one person is killed, and this kind of follows again the fallout of that and figuring out what actually happened that night. Like I said, this book is really interesting. I maybe like it just maybe slightly more than A Secret History, but it is very similar in terms of themes of talking about the dark side of academia and kind of the tropes that involve like the murder within kind of dark academia. I do really, like I said, I do really enjoy this, and I feel like fall's the perfect time to read this. It's just really interesting. It's well written. I felt like the characters are slightly pretentious in a way, but you still really care for them, and really trying to figure out what actually happened that night was really a lot of fun to kind of figure out as the story's being told to us, and basically how the kind of police officers that are listening to his story are as well. So I thought that was really neat. And like I said, even though I'm not a big Shakespeare person, and they do sometimes talk to each other in kind of Shakespeare quotes, I felt like it didn't take away from the story. Like I said, I'm not a big Shakespeare person, but I did really enjoy this. So yeah, I feel like this is the perfect time of year to kind of dive into this one. So when I'm talking about like misty or foggy kind of fall dreary days, this is really a book that comes to mind, and it is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the first book in the Shepherd King duology, and it follows this girl who lives in this kingdom where there is this dark mist that has descended upon it, and if you go into the mist, you're likely to it's going to mess with your mind, or it gives you some sort of magic, and that is very kind of illegal in this kingdom. So people that have survived the mist are often put to death, and our main character is one who has survived the mist, but she has kind of been protected from that because her father is in a high position within the royal court, and she has kind of this monster that's living in her head. There's a really interesting kind of magical system as well within this one where there's like this deck of cards that hold different kind of powers. So if you are in possession of that card, it makes you really beautiful, or it gives you extra strength, but there's only a finite number of cards available, and the more you use these cards, the more it kind of just drains your energy, which is a really interesting system. This book is really much kind of atmosphere and vibes, but I do think the plot is very interesting as well. I felt like I was like really engaged with this, and it definitely really took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to I just picked this up on a whim. It was like one of the buy one get one 50% off books at Barnes & Noble, and I picked it up, and it was so good that I was like, I need to get the sequel to this one. So it's really good. My husband has read this one as well, and he really enjoyed it. So I feel like, again, because it kind of gives that kind of dreary Pinterest board Edinburgh like vibes. This one actually takes place in Edinburgh, and I feel like it kind of, again, has that kind of dreary fall, dark, wet fall vibe. And it is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. This is a book that takes place kind of in the mid to late 1800s, where we follow this school that is for people who are kids that have special powers. So whether it can be someone who can like touch an object and know the history of the object, or the last person who came in contact with, or turn invisible, these type of things. And so they're getting recruited to this school, and there has been special interest placed on this one boy, and there is this kind of evil, darker magic that is also interested in this boy as well, and it kind of goes from there. This book I really enjoyed, and it really took me by surprise. It really has that Victorian London vibe to it, so I feel like that is just really kind of peak fall for whatever reason in my mind, but you really just grow attached to these group of characters. It's quite dark. The second book really kind of skews between like fantasy and horror, which really took me by surprise, but this is again another book series that my husband and I have both read, and we really enjoyed. This, like I said, this one took me by surprise because the Goodreads reviews were kind of all over the place, but I think people were comparing this to Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and I never read this one, but I think going in, I really enjoyed this. It took me by surprise. Like I said, I was not expecting the best out of it, but especially the second book, I just can't wait to see how this trilogy will end. But yeah, it's just really interesting. There's that kind of unsettling feeling that you have, that you're just waiting for something bad to happen. You're just waiting for that monster to come out, and kind of there's always, you're on edge, which I really enjoy when an author does. I really love the connections between the characters, and yeah, it's just really good. It really took, like I said, it took me by surprise, and because I heard mixed things about it, but I definitely recommend giving this one a try. And I feel like it really, because it does have that fantastical element to it, but also, snippets of horror kind of thrown in. I feel like this is the perfect time of year to really read this one. And lastly, this is a fairy tale retelling that I feel it just really gives good fall vibes, and it is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This is a loose telling of the Goose Girl, but we follow this girl whose mother is a witch, and she is very abusive towards her. She's not allowed to have doors in her room, and her mother is very controlling and has the ability ability to kind of go into her mind where she has to be totally obedient against her will and do things against her will. And her mother is very determined to find basically a old man to marry in order to get his fortune. And so the mom, we follow them on their hunt to, I guess, find a sugar daddy basically. And there's kind of some other things going on as well. This one, again, it has a little bit of horror elements mixed in, but I really enjoyed it. It really, really gives like such a good atmosphere. And I feel like this picture that is in like the end page here really kind of gives that like dark forest vibe. And yeah, and that, again, unsettling feeling that you get just waiting for something bad to happen. I really enjoyed this one. There's also like a really good sense of, despite all these other themes that I talked about or plot points, there's really a sense of found family between a group of these characters, and I really loved it. So I feel like a fall is a kind of a good time to read kind of those fairy tale retellings. So like I said, really love this one, and I think it's a perfect time to read it kind of this time of year. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your fall reading recommendations are and all of that stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.